Good morning, ladies. We're going to get started here. Give everybody a chance to settle in. Ooh, it got quiet. Well, we'll call this meeting to order. It's 12:26 and we'll get started. If you will, pray with me. God, we come before you right now, thanking you for the day, for this gathering. I thank you for all these smiling faces and just the chatter. And Lord, help each one of us to do our best to be the child that you choose, and give us wisdom as we work with our community to know how to help best. And just thank you for this time that we can gather. In Jesus' name, amen. Well, good morning. I don't know about you, but I think we're finally getting back to normal. Dare I say normal? However, I always think of Irma Bombeck, who stated that normal was just the setting on a washer or dryer. So I don't know if we'll ever return back to the way it was, but I do think we're getting back to a routine, and it feels good for me anyway. I hope it feels good for you too. And the more that take the vaccine, the closer we get. So welcome to the Guild, and let's have a great time today. We do have, okay, she did make it. We have Michelle come on up, and she's going to make a presentation.
With her camera, though, take it. Hi, everyone. I'm Michelle Walker, and as you know, or hopefully know, we just had the quilt auction. It was a huge success, very exciting. Our first time doing it online. Usually we have like a nice luncheon, and we had to do everything online this year because of COVID. And so we always choose a local charity. You know, the community works because the community helps each other. And so we always pick a local charity that we like to extend a gift to when we do the auction. And so this is Letha Ruiz from CASA of Southeast Texas. And we'd like to present you with a check for $2,000. They were a big help. They helped spread the word and sent the auction out to their members and posted on Facebook for us and all kinds of things. So it was a big help. So she's going to tell you a little bit about what CASA does.
First thing I want to say is thank you very, very much. This helps the children in Jefferson County so much more than you could ever imagine. This month happens to be Child Abuse Awareness Month, and we wear blue for child abuse awareness, and we have crosses in our front lawn for the 251 children in Texas that passed away from child abuse or neglect in Texas last year in 2020. So what we do greatly affects those families. We are not CPS. We work with CPS on court cases, but CPS is the one that actually removes the children. We are appointed by the judge to go in and gather information, make visits with the children and their family, and investigate, what's going on, see if the parents are working their services or and what have you, to make sure that whatever is happening with this child or these children are in the best interest of the child. We advocate solely for the child, and we report back to the judge and give him our recommendations for what we think is in the best interest of the child, if it's family reunification, if it's adoption, what have you. The people at our offices and our volunteers do amazing work and have such a huge heart, and what you guys have donated is a huge, huge help, and we thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
CASA is dear to my heart. I was a CASA volunteer at one time. Yeah. Well, maybe. Maybe. Okay, I do want to let you know that, again, we are recording the meeting. So when you do your show and tell, be sure and speak into the microphone, because if you don't, they won't be able to hear it, anybody that watches it later. And we will record the presentation as well. So if you want to go back and look at it again or whatever, it's on our YouTube, and we'll send out an email that gives you the link to the YouTube. And please do not share that with other people. That is just for the guild to have. Okay, we have a guest raffle, and this is Tammy and Kathy, and they're from Piece by Piecing in Humble, and that beautiful blue and white quilt. Blue and white's one of my favorite colors. So. Yeah. So we're glad to have y'all this morning. Thank y'all for coming. So get your raffle ticket over there. Go meet them and buy your raffle ticket. Maybe you'll be the lucky one. We're still not having our evening meetings, and we probably won't until sometime in the fall. We'll take a look at it and revisit it then and see if there is a need to meet in the evenings. But right now, those are suspended. You were sent the March meetings via email. Hopefully you read those. And the financial report was in the newsletter, last month's March newsletter. Were there any corrections? Did anybody see anything that needed to be corrected on that? No corrections, so it will be filed for audit. Susan, where are you? Yeah, there you are. You want to come and tell us about upcoming classes and lectures. Sorry, I didn't tell you when you were going to be up, so you weren't prepared.
I'm Susan Pennington, and I haven't seen y'all much this year because I've had conflicts with every meeting, which is not supposed to happen, but it did. Today, our speaker is Karen Lambdin, and she does free motion quilting on domestic and long arm machines, and so I'll tell you a little bit more about her in a little while. She is doing a workshop tomorrow. That's a ruler quilting workshop on a domestic machine. If you have an interest in signing up for that, please see me. I think as of right now I have about 2 or 3 openings, and we had a waiting list, so people have had to drop out for whatever reason, but I've talked to a couple of people that said they might be interested, and so if you are, please see me. Don't fill out an envelope, just see me. I'm at this front row right here where all this stuff's on the chair. Next month, in May, our speaker will be Laura Casmar, who is a member of our guild. I haven't gotten a description of what she's going to talk about, but some of you might know her, and I'll make sure to put it on the website.
Laura lives in Port Arthur, but in Houston more than she does in Port Arthur now. So, and she just does wonderful ethnic quilts as well as traditional. And she's a long-term member, so many of you know her, but some of the newer members don't. So it'll be a great chance to see some beautiful quilts and get to meet and know one of our members too.
Yes. Laura's not doing a workshop, but the workshop on bowls that got canceled in February, we are having in May. And so I have a favor. If you signed up for that workshop and have paid, would you just fill out one of those envelopes and put it in the basket over there and just mark paid on it? If you signed up for the workshop and aren't going to make it and need a refund, please do the same thing. Put your name on the envelope, put refund. That will help me out a lot. So it's taught by Susan Cornell with Dot helping. Or I just put Susan Cornell and her helpers so on the webpage. And so it looks like a lot of fun. And there is a $5 kit that you'll need to get for this May workshop. And so if you write a check, you can pay the $25 for the workshop and the $5 for the kit all in one check. Just put class and kit, and we'll make sure you get the kit. Did you bring any today? Oh, Susan Cornell has them, and she didn't get to come. Okay. And in June, Jean Aguilar is going to be our speaker and our workshop, and she brought me this cute, you have to hold. She says she has 14 spools, and you don't have to do a spool, but whatever you create, it's on wool embroidery applique. And so the first 14 that want spools, I guess if you sign up, you can get it. I haven't done a poster for Jean's class yet, but it'll be available next month. I'm going to do a community service announcement because I feel led to do this. If your children or your young 40-year-old grandchildren haven't gotten vaccinated, please tell them to get vaccinated. And if they need convincing, I can send them a picture of my son on a vent because he's fighting for his life today, and I'd appreciate your prayers.
Here's your. Yeah, that was it. Thank you, Susan, and we will be praying for him. Okay. Debbie, are you ready? She's not ready. She's going to talk to us about the quilt show coming.
Hi, I'm Debbie Richardson, and I'm going to be the chairman for the next quilt show. And it's going to be March 11th and 12th, 2022 at the Beaumont Civic Center. And the theme of the show is going to be Life's a Beach. So I've come up with a quilt challenge called the Splash Challenge for everyone to start sewing. It can be any pattern you want, but it can only contain colors of water. Blues, greens, turquoise, teals. No white, no tan, no gray, no black, no brown. Just colors of water. So you can use the lightest value of blue you can find, but just no white. And you can do anything you want to on the back. Carolyn Slack has agreed to head up the block challenge. She's going to come next month with her idea for that. And I need volunteers. I need a vendor chairman, and I need a boutique chairman. So we can get that going. Since the auction's over, now we've got less than a year till the show. So it's going to get here quick. So we need to start booking vendors and getting the boutique, ideas for that. So whoever's interested, come talk to me. Thanks. Oh, the quilt for, this is our raffle quilt, Dot.
All right, Andrew, where are you? Come on,
Here, I'll help you. Are you going to say something?
Okay. If y'all remember the block contest, last quilt show the theme was stars, and they were very bright and colorful. And Carolyn asked if our wannabe bee, which is one of our newer bees in the guild, would put those blocks together. And so we met and decided on this arrangement, which is kind of reminiscent. It's upside down? Oh, it is. Turn your camera around or turn it upside down. Yeah, it's supposed to get a little more narrow. What's the Gypsy Wife quilts? Kind of reminiscent of those. Obviously, way more blocks than most of the Gypsy Wife quilts. But the wannabes that are here are Linda Matthews and Joyce Logan and Lynn Gerhart and am I missing somebody? Oh, it's Susan Pennington and me that are here. And then there's some that are missing that are not here. And if I start calling more names, I'll mess up more. So, but thanks to the wannabes, we put this together first. We worked for 2 days in Kuntz and to work on it, and took lots of our fabrics and lots of scraps and used up practically everything we took with us. And we didn't use quite all of the blocks and it was quilted by Crystal Little, thank you. And Marlene is going to bind it, but I told her since it just came this week and we had the meeting today, I said I'll take it for show and tell or to show before we before I take it. I don't remember. Probably that way. So this is the second one we made. I don't know what that will be used for, at least for sure for an auction quilt the next year. So, and Cindy Thomas is going to quilt it, so it may go in that group category at the quilt show and then be used for the following auction. But so if you didn't, your block that you made wasn't in the first quilt, it's in the second quilt. And we really had a good time putting these together, and I would recommend any bee volunteering to do that. You're welcome.
Thank you, Doc. All right, we've got a lot to look forward to next year at the Quilt Show, so start making your plans now, and please volunteer. The boutique sounds like it's a lot of work. It is a lot of work, but it's fun, and I enjoyed it last year, or the last time. So please see Debbie to volunteer. And speaking of volunteers, I still need a volunteer as well. The hospitality committee is, you want to be it? Oh. Don't raise your hand if you don't want. I'll get to you in just a minute. Okay. Anyway, the hospitality, I need a chairman for the hospitality. You only have to do 2 luncheons a year, and the one in July is coming up, so I'm going to need somebody. So if I don't get somebody, you probably won't run if you see me headed towards you. So, okay, and your question? That's up to the chair, so I don't know. I would suspect we will, but I don't know that. The question was, will we be doing handmade items to sell in the boutique that are not necessarily quilting? And that's why I say that's up to the chair, whoever does chair it. That's what I did last year. I made a challenge and said make 5 things. It didn't care what it was. It was a great success. So, because I'm president and I'm busy. If it weren't for that, I would, but no. Besides, I want to spread the fun. See, we need more people to be a part. That's right, Carol. Point finger, there's how many pointing back at you? And you can have a co-chair. There can be even 2 chairs. I don't care. We just need to get somebody. Okay. All right. Our community service, Kathy Tage, she's still trying to get situated from her fire. I do want to mention, she's not here today, but Lynn is helping that. So if you can help with community service, please see them back there. I also want to mention that we did take up a donation for Kathy, and the Guild rounded it up. So Debbie will be giving her a check this week for $500. So great job. Great job. All right, membership. Paula? Okay, all right. 44 members are here today, 5 guests, and 1 is a new member. Pardon me? And 1 new member. Oh, I said 5 new members. That's 5 visitors and 1 new member. Pat, raise your hand. She's our new member. So we welcome you. We welcome you. Okay, is there any unfinished business? How about new business? Okay, I just have one more announcement, and that is there was a request on our Facebook page for some long armors. So thank you, Melinda Stanton. She did a Google Doc, and we now have a spreadsheet that you can put your name, your contact number, your location, and we're going to post that and send out emails on that. So if you want to get your name on that long arm list, see Melinda if you don't know how to do that, if you didn't see the on Facebook how to do that, if you don't do Facebook, whatever. Just let one of us know and we'll help you get your name on that. Now, that's just something that we thought would be a good thing to have because several people don't know long armors. You certainly can.
Well, last month we were still in the midst of the auction, so I just wanted to give kind of a wrap up to everybody. We had 80 items, and 78 of them sold, so we only have 2 left that we're probably going to put in the boutique. And one thing that was interesting, I thought, was the people that won the items. 2/3 of them were not guild members. So I know in the past we've had auctions and everybody's buying, which, you know, I love buying each other's quilts, but it was nice to have some outside people join in. And I know we reached a lot more people. My cousin, she was on a girls' trip in Mexico drinking margaritas, and started showing the quilts to her friends, and they all started bidding on the quilts. So you just never know what's going to happen. So I just want to say big thanks to Jenny for helping me. And Cindy did all the minis, and that was a big help. And Peggy was helpful with pictures and all that stuff, and the pickup. Thank you. And Debbie with the money. Debbie kept track of all the money. She said she was so excited that it all balanced out, and we ended up with $19,486 or something like that after expenses. Yeah, and with donations. And the last one was like $17,000, right? Yeah. So, and we didn't have to lug all the poles over there and hang up the quilts. And so I don't know. We need somebody who's gonna. I'm not doing this again. So we need somebody who would like to head up the auction, and I'd be happy to sit down and step by step and help you out and everything. And we may end up doing it in person and online. We can kind of do a combination of both. We can just do it online and we'll have a catered luncheon or something. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, it was a lot of work, but it was a lot of like sitting at my computer while I'm watching TV in the evenings kind of work. It wasn't so much like the physical work, and Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so mhm. And luckily the event center, we had put down a deposit to do it at the event center. They took that money and put it for the quilt show. So we didn't lose that money there. So anyways, I just wanted to let y'all know. I think it went really well. And
Thank you, Michelle. Appreciate that. Okay, is there anything for the good of the guild? Okay, we're going to do show and tell. So if you have a show and tell, line up here. And remember to speak into the microphone. And don't have it down here. Have it up here. You don't have to spit on it, but you know. Yes. Andrew, you going to hold again?
I have a bunch. They're all quilt tops. There's a bunch.
In the
So,
order?
yeah, that's fine. It doesn't matter what. I'm Dot Collins, and thank you. Don't bless your heart. There are steps. Yes, yeah. I'm Dot Collins, and I've got quite a few. They're all quilt tops because I haven't been quilting. I'm hoping after the workshop tomorrow I'm going to get remotivated. So, but a lot of these are things that I've done over the last year. This one is sideways, but it doesn't matter. This was, some of you know that Rhonda Dart, who we've had as a speaker before, came and she is doing online classes with vintage linens, and if you're interested, we'll come and I'll share the website with you so that if you want to join in. This was class 1. I did make it bigger than what she originally started, and then I added the curved piece border, but I've collected the linens for a long time, so it's been really fun to use them, and it has really unvintage fabrics mixed in with it, but I think it's mostly vintage. So I'm hoping we're going to get enough of these to have a category at the quilt show of vintage. So, and for sure we could, if we combine vintage linens and vintage feet sacks, we can have a category. So this was her second class, which originally I wasn't going to do because it kind of repeated the stars that were from the first class. And then when Becky Miles was here in January, we kind of cleaned out one of my closets, and I found these red work ladies, and I said, oh my goodness, those are the perfect size for her her class 2. Yeah, Kathy? They're free, yes. They're a Facebook class, so you do have to be on Facebook. But I purchased the ladies years and years ago. I have no idea when, but they've been in my closet ever since I bought them. And I had 2 packages of 12. So I took in, because I wanted a little bit of my own handwork with them also, I added the circles around each one, and then put the quilt together. And I thought I was going to do a colorful border, and then once I finished those and put them on the wall at retreat, I thought, no, I think I'm going to put white and quilt feathers. Hopefully I'll get started quilting again. So that was class 2, and she's starting class 3 right now. So the instructions haven't started yet. She's giving you supply lists. So, you can still get the information on the other 2, but you can start. What'd you say, Charlotte? Oh, it's on the class 3 is hexagons, which some of you may say, oh, I'm never doing that. And then some might say, oh, I've always wanted to do that. So anyway, this was something I did after the last class last month. This was Debbie Walters' the half clamshell ruler. And when I opened up that template package, which was just 2 templates, this great big one, it makes a 12-inch block. You have to use 4 of them, and it makes a 12-inch block, and then the side pieces that made the border. So I put that together at a retreat. I liked it okay before the border, and then I really liked it after I did the border. And then this next one is an octo block. Y'all, some of you know me know I love Stack and Whack, and one of our guild members, Sadie, sent me a picture of this, and I said, that's using a border print. And then I said, I have that border print. I can try that. So I took him to retreat, and I made the quilt top, but I didn't have enough of the border to do anything except those blocks. So after I put it together, I liked it so much. We found it on Hancock's at Paducah. I ordered the border fabric. So this is what was cut up into the other blocks. And it's a Jason Yenter fabric. Big blocks and real simple. Okay, yeah, that should show that first and then show the other quilt. This is just the fabric, that I used in the next one. For another Stack and White class, but there's also another Facebook group called One Block Wonder Forum, and you have to ask to be a member. I can't invite you, but I can give you that link too. And they've just been doing so many One Block Stack and White quilts or One Block Wonder quilts, but adding a panel. So I cut 2 of the owls out of that original fabric and made this one. And I worked on it at a retreat, and Cindy was there. So she's got me booked for next year for a workshop with this. So One Block Wonders or Stack and Whack with a panel. Oh. All the seams. You do press all the seams open with One Block Wonder. So that's when Ann Babb sticks come in great for that and for the Debbie Walters classes. Yes. It's fairly current. I don't know for sure if it's still available, but it's fairly current. So maybe, I have a piece of it at home, so I can look it up if y'all need to know what it was. So, thank you.
I went to the Diva retreat, and we made rugs. And this is the rug I made. And when I got home, I had some left, so I made my Chihuahua a rug.
Hi, I'm Suzanne Reeves, and this has been in my closet since 2010. So Peaceful Bee, we did a 5-inch Civil War exchange, 5-inch square Civil War exchange, and I had some. I'm a kit person, okay? There's nothing but kits. And so I had this cheddar material, and I could see that, I wanted cheddar. I wanted to do something with cheddar. And so I got my little squares, and I cut them up, and I was ready to go at a retreat. And I put it up there, and Jenny Beaumont goes, "Oh, heck no, that don't go together at all." So I went to the little store they had, and I bought that yellow material, this right here. And she said, "Oh, yeah, that goes." So then I did my little, I counted, kits, everything's always in there. Well, I read the instructions. It said 144. Well, when I got it on the board, it was only half. You were supposed to do 144 darks and 144 lights. So guess what? I had to go home and finish the thing. But I'm OCD, and I wanted everything just right. So I had to unsew some of the top ones so that they wouldn't be the same at the bottom and the top. But anyway, it got finished, and it's all my own material. And then we have another exchange, and I bought 4 patches, and I bought the material to go with it. Well, I changed my mind and got something else. So I used the back. The back of this is the material that was supposed to go to the other one. So it's all my own stuff. And it's done since 2010.
Good job.
Nikki Bracken quilted it, and Carol Taylor said, "Ooh, I would do Baptist fans." So that's
what you did.
it's nice to have people that know tell you what to do.
You have a. You have a.
Well, I'm Carolyn Slack, and I have more tell than show today, but I do have a show. We have, closer, we have a new grandson born March 26th. Nice big fat baby, 8 pounds, 3 ounces. And then Veronica's grandchild, Anna Catherine's baby. Okay, so then we had another great grandchild that was due May 31st. And Saturday we got a call that our granddaughter, who was having that baby, had preeclampsia. And then she had been to the hospital, then sent back home, and then she was back in the hospital, and they said they absolutely had to do a C-section. So we have another great-grandson born, 3 pounds, 6 ounces, but he's doing fine. He was born Saturday night, and he's doing fine, and Maris is out of the hospital and finally got to see the baby yesterday. So anyway, Monday morning I got up and I thought, oh, well, I thought I had until May 31st to make her baby quilt. And I had it all planned, and I had bought some fabric and everything, but I thought, well, I need something faster than that. So I knew I had a panel somewhere. I went into the closet, dug around, finally found the panel. And I had bought some fabric for the back, but of course, for you new quilters, always buy more than you think you need. So I had enough for the back, but not for the border and the back and the binding. So
You won't let them hold it. Let him hold it.
I found the little brown I found the brown in the closet in my stash, so I was able to do that. So anyway, so it says Sweet Dreams. I'm sorry, what? Oh, the baby's name is Rhett Richard in Monroe. Like Rhett Butler?
Like Rhett Butler.
Rhett Logan Richard.
Your name?
Somebody, I don't remember who told me. They said, "Oh, Rhett Richard, that sounds like a country western."
Here, wait.
Okay.
You're going to have to do
Okay.
this and let him hold it.
My name's Winnie Fondren, and I took a class at So It Seems. It's in Mid County, and made this bag, and it was more fun. And Candace is wonderful. She helps you. I had made that panel a long time ago. I had done it, and I never had used it for anything, and so I dug around, and all of it came from my stash, and I put the bag together. And you need to look at the inside. The inside has piping on the pockets. It's got piping and everything, and so it's a lot of fun to make. Yeah. So
That is. I love that. That's pretty. One more.
I forgot to give my tell, and that I'm a great grandmother. So I showed this last month, but I had asked who had taught the binding that had the double color on it. So Dot said she had, and when we took the class last month, she also brought a page for us and samples, and she told me how to do it, and I got it done. And it really needed that little extra piece of orange in it. So thank you, Dot.
Very pretty. Any other show and tell? Okay, we're going to take a 10-minute break, and then we'll come back and hear Karen. This meeting is adjourned.
Hello. Yeah, if y'all could all take your seats, please. Okay, we'd like to get started, so if you could take your seat, please. Okay, it's my pleasure to introduce our speaker today, Karen Lambdin. This is the bio she sent me, so I'm just going to share it with y'all. She is a fiber artist and a quilter. She does free motion quilting on domestic and long arm machines, and she teaches motion quilting, portrait quilting, and ruler work quilting. And tomorrow she's going to be doing a ruler work workshop for us. She's been here before when she did her portrait quilting. Oh, really? More than one? She's been quilting for over 30 years and has made hundreds of quilts, all quilted herself. She has a degree in chemistry, but opted to stay home with her children after being a chemist for only a few years. In recent years, she's found a love of representational art quilting. That means portraits and landscapes, and takes great joy in those pieces. She loves elaborate quilting or heirloom quilting, and has been a fun process for her. And she said, more liberating than piecing or applique. I'm a real admirer of her because even though I've tried to do free motion quilting and taken classes from Dot and several other people, it's not something I've even come close to even being acceptable at, more or less accomplished at. So it's my joy to introduce Karen to you.
Hi. I'm from San Antonio. We didn't say that, but she said everything else, so we can go. I do have right now. I do free motion quilting. That's my passion. I design. Oh, there I can see. That's better. I design my quilts so that I will have space. You know, that empty space, that magical empty space to put designs in. So, you know, so they're not really heavily pieced. I guess that one was, but, and I have a domestic machine with something I'm free motion quilting on. I have one of those sit down, it's a Juki now. I had a Sweet 16, now I have a Juki. Because I sold it when I got my long arm. I have a long arm too. And I have something quilting on all of them right now. And, you know, that's how you get tired of standing on the long arm. I'm going to sit down in here. And then I got the TV and the other one. And then I sold my Sweet 16 when I got the long arm because I thought I'm not going to need that anymore. But I do, you know, like bags and wall hangings and little things. So I need them all. I thought, well, I'm a free motion quilter. I can have 3 free motion quilting machines. I'm going to do that. So, most of these quilts, I'm going to have ruler work. Some of them don't because I have a couple that were made before, and then one of them just is all free motion. So I don't design them for ruler work. I design the quilting, and if the ruler will help me do that, I'll use the ruler. So I'm kind of backwards on that. The rulers to me are a help, an aid, a quilting aid, and that's how I use them. None of these have been no computers. I guess I should say no. I don't use computers. My long arm does have a stitch regulator, but the other machines don't have stitch regulators either. So we're going to start with this one, and you may have even seen it. The green one, yeah, that one's first. That paw will go first. Because I made it a while back, probably since I've been here, but I brought one just to show you again. So this quilt, no ruler work because this is before, I wonder if I have a date. It's 2015. So I guess that's before I had rulers. right, the straight lines, but you can kind of compare them to the straight lines on this, and they're free motion straight lines, and they're not quite as nice. And I did this on a domestic machine. I have photo evidence from my quilt retreat because I was working on it at the retreat. And they thought I was crazy because it looked kind of bad because I would, when I did this, so this is that same yellow fabric here, and the color is the thread, the diamonds. And so I had red in the machine, and I would just kind of do the whole quilt, so every once in a while I just would do red, 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 so I didn't have to change my thread a billion times. And then I would do a few greens all around the quilt, so it looked real shabby and kind of bad. And they were like, what is she doing? But I had it, I knew up here what I was doing. But I threw out all the stops on this one. I hand appliqued those. It was supposed to be 12, and I got tired of, I'm not much for sticking with that. So I hand appliqued 4, and I said, that's good enough for me. And I trapuntoed that vine, so it's the kind where you snip away the batting. It's got a beaded piping, which from Beth Ann Nemish. So if you get a chance, take a look at that. If I was going to do beaded piping again, I would do a contrasting color. It's beaded piping there. So it's the green, I went to all that work. And I did that beaded piping on a river cruise on the Rhine. I had that piping, I had this thing, and you got to stitch around each bead twice. And I was watching the castles and stitching my beads. So it's a good memory. And then I even embroidered the binding, which I do have that technique on my blog site. So if you want to see how to, that's really simple. You have all those nice stitches on your sewing machine, and it's kind of fun to. It doesn't take very long to stitch embroider and enhance your binding. Okay, so. Mm-hmm. You want to show the back of that? And that's something I do also. I like to have backs that will show my quilting, because sometimes the back is more awesome than the front. That's a wild fabric comfort, but it does show. When many years ago, I took a feather class with Dot, and that's when I really got good at feathers and stuff. And I would quilt those feathers on things. And my beam members, Charlotte included, I remember her saying this, they were like, Karen, your quilting's beautiful, but we can't see it. And so now I try to put my feathers in something that's a little more visible. So this one is my, and I believe this is domestic and before rulers too. And if you look, you can kind of tell. But I wanted to do a feathered star, and so this is kind of a fakey feathered star. You cut it out and fuse it down. Oh, and I even had a little piece of this left over from my fusible feathered star. But I did have fun with the quilting, and I'll talk a little bit about how I come up with my designs for quilting these quilts in a little bit. But all free motion on there. That one didn't show so much, huh? Oh, it's that Susie's Magic binding that we were talking about? Yeah, sure, just go down. Some of these are not my quilts, and I always tell people, I don't quilt for other people. I'm this is my machine, I'm going to quilt for my, and then I'm getting quilts for this, right here for this trunk show. I was like, I quilted for all these people, but this is the lady that owns the quilt shop where I teach. She had this, she teaches embroidery, and so I quilted this for her, and she was thrilled. And this is kind of reminiscence of Judy Madsen. You ever see her work? I got inspired by Judy. But I had a little piece of cardboard, 3 inches, and I just drew those squares there, and then I did use ruler work. So I rulered here, and I rulered this design out here. So a lot of ruler in there. When I'm doing this, it brings me so much joy when I'm sitting on the machine and that design pops out, I'm giggling. I'm having a good time. You know, this is what I really like to do. Of course, when I do the 400th one, I'm not giggling quite so much. But, you know, that first one, I'm like, oh, that looks so cool, you know. But then once you get started, you can't stop. You know, you got one block that's quilted to death. You got to keep going. Yeah. Yeah, she added that, yes. And I suggested that to her, and she was selling that bling in her shop. And I said, you need to put some sparkle on that. This one's another friend. Made this, and she brought this, and I was like, I want to quilt that. And I asked her. I said, I'm going to quilt that. Yeah, it's okay. Never underestimate the power of a woman with a sewing machine. And it had to have feathers, so I put one feather spine there. But this design, I wanted to show you. I picked this up at Hobby Lobby in the wall painting section. And I've had it in my sewing room for a long time. And I was always looking for something to use this on, to use this design. And so I traced it onto here. I just used a blue pen. Yeah. It's embroidery. Yeah. So my friend does embroidery. So, so I used this design anyway. So you know, the design is out there in all different places. And sometimes you don't know if you're ever going to use it, but it was in the back of my head. I think I'm going to do that with this. I think it's going to look cool. So I really like the way that design, and hopefully my goal is to keep the design in the background and let her. You guys might disagree with me and think that maybe I overpower it, but I'm trying to make the design enhance the quilt and keep the applique the forefront. She had a lot of negative space, and it was kind of Victorian feeling, you know. So I was thinking, I can do something with that. Yes. So her question is, do I design out on paper first or do it as I go? Kind of both. Yeah. I take a picture of it and I print it out on a piece of paper in black and white. And black and white so the colors don't distract me. I can just see values. And then I'll draw on it and I'll sketch on it. Sometimes I'll go to the machine and I'll stitch it out and it looks terrible. That's fun. And then I rip it and try something else. But this is the same friend that did the Power of the Woman. So I put my embroidery quilts here that they do. I don't embroider, but I appreciate it. And she gave that to me knowing I was a chemist. And that hangs in my sewing room. I thought about this, and you know, in chemistry, benzene rings were kind of a big thing with the hexagons. And so is quilting. So it kind of brings them together. So I thought, well, I'm going to put some hexagons on there, fill in that empty space with hexes, and then quilted them all differently. I painted the periodic table thing up there. That's Lumiere paint. So I quilted that, you know, I printed it out, I traced it onto the fabric, quilted it, and then I came along and painted it later after I quilted it. And yeah, every one of them. That's where it's kind of fun. I have fun looking at different fills and trying different stuff. Maybe a little too much. I have a couple of minis here. I did this. I don't know if you guys have that Simple Whatnots. Kim Deal. They were doing it at our quilt shop. And the first one I did, which I didn't bring, I'm sorry, but the first one I did, my quilting didn't show up at all because it was so busy. And so when I did this one, I changed the design a little bit to give me a square. And then I turned the fabric upside down, that fabric right there. It was a whole bunch of different Civil War kind of lights, but they were too busy, so I turned them upside down. I was like, perfect on the back. Then the quilting will show up. And and then the back shows up, yeah. So that's all domestic, you know, the little ones I do on my domestic machine. This little one was for the quilt show. They had a thing where you exchange with someone from another country. Anybody do that? So we said, well, let's do something with Dresden plates. Me and this girl from Germany, Tanya was her name. And so at the end of the year or 6 months, you're supposed to exchange. Well, she ghosted me, I guess you'd say. She didn't. I guess she didn't do hers. So anyway, she ghosted me. So that was going to be hers if she had given me something. But so anyway, I had fun doing that. That one now look at the design I put there. It has a Dresden plate. So I went ahead and went with that Dresden plate and made a bigger Dresden plate for my quilting design. And then filled it in with a whole bunch of different shapes. This one, I threw that in because I had fun quilting this, since we're talking about the quilting. But this was it's an auction quilt, and it's been in that bucket for years. Nobody wants to quilt it, and you know me, the space. I thought, well, that's kind of cool. It's all hand pieced and hand appliqued, and it was kind of lumpy, dumpy, you know. It's still, but I thought, well, I'm gonna do some quilt blocks in these empty spaces. And I went online, and I was going to do all cat-related quilt blocks, and the only one I could find was Puss in the Corner, so I think I got that one right there. And then I just did stuff I liked. In the rest of them, you know, I just did this one, the Puss in the Corner. It's got this shape. That's what you'll have to look it up. It's kind of hard to see under the cat, But so it's a quilt, you know, added design, but hopefully underneath the cats, you know, keeping them and the mice. And so hopefully it'll go good at the auction anyway. I didn't bind it. I figure I quilted it. I'm gonna let somebody else bind that. She asked if someone else made that quilt top. Yes, it was in our donation. Yeah, I don't even know who it was. I would give her credit, but. This one is another friend's quilt that I say I never quilt for friends or quilt for other people. We did this one in our B, and we're the wannabes too. We're the wannabes senior, right? We're the first wannabes. And so it was a round robin, and so Marky got this one, and she asked me if I'd quilt it for her, and she's 81, 82, something like that. And I said, okay, Marky, I'll quilt it for you. And so, yeah, this was fun. It was fun. So I don't know how to tell you what we did on the round robin. I had fun. This is one I'm particularly proud of. I didn't know what to do in this border. You know, I mean, I struggled over this for a long time. And then when I came up with my little river of flowy things, I thought, oh, that looks really cool. That was when I was giggling, you know. That's really cool how that came out. Okay. And then just different. Can you see this? On the triangles, I thought that was kind of fun too. The outline on the triangles. I was, you know, kind of worried that the quilting wouldn't show up on these because that's what I'm talking about. But it's showing up fantastic, isn't it? The lighting, sometimes, you know, it just depends on the lighting. And that's all long arm, ruler work, and free motion. Probably a lot of ruler work in that one. You can see all the lines and stuff. Up there in the top, you see the ruler work up there? Yeah, okay. So I design it first, and then if the ruler will help me, that's how I use them. I'll have to bring that tomorrow because I just saw a border that has some interesting ruler work on it. You see that? She just has the top and the bottom border done. Okay. Some of, you know, I hear this all the time, that when you quilt like this, that the quilts are too stiff, that if you quilt them too heavily, and it really does happen, but it pretty much depends on what batting you're using, even what kind of thread you're using. Would you guys agree this is a cuddly, cozy quilt? I used Hobbs Poly down on that, and it was real nice, kind of thick, but it's quilted to death, but it's still cozy. So don't believe that. You can quilt it, and a lot of times they'll soften up as you wash it and use it. But you know, we've all heard that. This is Michelle Watts. Have you seen, Michelle Watts? She did a few years ago. She did those stencil things where you kind of rub on it with those. Yes, and I have that quilt too. So this snail's trail is the Michelle Watts stenciled. I stenciled that with Shiva. That's what it's called. Those Shiva paint sticks. Shiva paint stick. And so I had all those. And I'm like, well, what am I going to do with those? So I put I did piece this to go with it. And don't admire my points too much, but it was kind of hard because the painted snail's trails didn't all come out exactly right, so it's not. But that's my cozy there. You want to see the back? So I did like I stitched around the snail's trail so it looks like it's pieced, so you can't. Let's see if we got it. Yeah, so try to make it to where you can't tell that it's painted that much. Sometimes I do. Took me 80 hours to do this one, and I know that because I was listening to some books on tape and I added them all up, the minutes on the books on tape. And I was like, dang, but I don't. And I'm super, super slow. A quilt will stay on my frame a month or two, but it's not really because I'm slow. But I only work like an hour at a time. Some days only an hour. Some days I don't work at all. But so I am very slow. This one is also the Michelle Watts, and this is my friend Linda's, and she did this. Did the stenciling. So that's all just one piece of fabric with the stencil painted. I'm sorry, she did have to piece it, though. I think she stenciled the things and put them together, but it's all one fabric. And so this is one Michelle Watts, one in Paducah with this one. And I saw that one online, and I didn't want to copy her quilting. You need something kind of original. But once you see it, it's kind of in your head, and I was like, so I had to really struggle. Okay, I'm going to do something. I'm not doing what she did there. I'm gonna do something original. So it was kind of fun, and I looked up New Mexico pots and stuff, to try to find some designs that they had, and so some of the designs are done in that. And can you see that on the back? Is that? Oh yeah. So really, this is. There's nothing hard about this. It just takes time. It takes time. It's the same single straight stitch. It's as you do on any free motion quilting, but you got to say, okay, I'm gonna take my time on this and have fun with it and do an elaborate. Tiny microscopic, not straight stitches in between. That's all domestic, by the way. That's before long arm. BL. Yeah, that's right. I've got some art quilts that I've done recently. This one, you've seen it. It's that Dream Big with the big flower thing, and so. That's the stencil I used for that border to make it look kind of like I was hoping for a picture frame is what I was going for. And I saw. Does anyone look at Lady Jane Quilting? She's from South Africa. I love her quilting. So look her up, Lady Jane Quilting. Her name's Talene, and I even took a class with her. And I brought this quilt because I kind of copied her. she had one that was done just gorgeous, but she had a square, and she had a square here. And I thought, and I looked at that, and then she put in the comments, she told how she did it. Well, she painted it with that Lumiere paint, which I brought some of if you want to see. And she is just so generous. And she was, she was telling us how she did it and everything. And so I took a class with her. She was in like Rockdale up by Austin a couple of summers ago, and I took a class with her there. And I showed her, and she said, well, let me take a picture of that, because that's how you copy someone without copying them. So I was like, okay, good. I was afraid she would be mad that I copied her idea, to paint the little design. So I made mine hexy instead of the square. And then I guess it's not a whole cloth. It would almost be, because I added this gold fabric. So the paint, the paint just happened to match that fabric right there. So the fabric is, but those inside hexagon things are painted. Did I what? I think after. No, honestly, I'm not. When you look real close, if there's little paint smears on the outside, you'll know I did. It's a little easier after, because if you, it's hard to follow that line, that paint line, and I would probably have to come back in and touch it up. So these paints, though, you take a look at this. You paint it right out of the bottle, no medium, no nothing. You just paint it right on. It's opaque, meaning it will cover up. And these two are made with the same paints. So these quilts are both all black Kona cotton. There's no other fabric except the backing. It's all paint and Kona cotton. It is so fun. And this was a quilt as you go, but I had my long arm, so I didn't do that. But this is Helen Godden from Australia. She does it on Facebook. It was a free class. Every month, I had to buy my paint and stuff, and every month she would do one bird. You print out the design, trace it onto your black Kona cotton with the light box, and then she shows you how to paint. She has a video. She paints it, and then she shows you how to quilt it. And she sits right there on her machine and shows you how to quilt it. So I did that one for free, and then that was my own design from like some Mexican pot kind of things. I took her design and I said, oh, that's fun. This is, because these are real forgiving. And if I mess up, like get outside the lines, you just hit it with a black Sharpie marker. And I mean, it's really forgiving and easy project. Yes. It's stiff. And when I quilt on it, you can hear it go pop, 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 pop. It makes this little noise, but it does after I paint it, I hit it with the iron, and it sets it, and it makes it really softer, a lot softer. So when you first do it, yes, Dot. The sashings and the cornerstones are paint too, and that wasn't her pattern. I thought I'm going to do something like that and paint that too. Can't see that one. Yeah. Well, that's Australian fabric on the back because she's from Australia. But you might look, I just finished another one of hers that she did last year during the pandemic, and it's on my long arm right now. And I did pay $50 for that, and kudos to Helen for doing that. And she does a lot of work for free on this one. The thread weight, she's asking, what do I use? And I'm a glide user. It's 40 weight. I use 40 weight glide. I like the way it shines. I like the way it goes through the machine, and I use the glide magnet bobbins. Never have any tension problems. So I'm doing mostly my own stuff. I can do. Oh yeah. This is the top right here. Okay. Nope. Did I have it wrong? Yeah, that's the bottom corner. No, this way. Here, I'll hold it. There we go. Okay, can you see what it is? Yeah, I took a picture at HEB. They have that outside of HEB. I guess y'all have it. They have it in San Antonio. I was like, oh my gosh, those pots are beautiful. And so I was squatting down, taking it, and you could even in the picture you could even see people in the parking lot in that reflection out in the you could kind of see cars in the reflect when I look at the picture. Yeah. And then I have another picture with they have blue and cream ones, and I have that because that was so fun. Now this is done the way we did the portrait quilts a couple of years ago. This is all collage, and this is fabric. I touched it up with a little paint in places, but so it's an exact representation of those pots that I saw. That was so fun. That one I'm gonna try to get that in Houston if we ever have another Houston show. I'm hoping. Okay, we're narrowing down. We're almost there. This one I just recently finished. It was for one of my neighbors. And she's not much of a quilter. I noticed her seams were really, really, but, she learned in the RV quilters. She's an RV quilter, and she just learned recently. And she designed this whole border herself. And, yes, and she likes color, yes. So some of her little flowers, I told her they look like they came from outer space or something. They're really funky. But my fun design was in this gray background, and her name's Denise. You saw it. She was pretty pleased. I'm glad, because you never know what. Okay, so I was like, what am I going to do in this background? And I wanted to go behind these sparkly gems. So I did I just drew a square, and did different fills in the different, and then there's another square here. And the gems has a really fun ruler work technique. So we can look at that tomorrow. It kind of goes out and over and out and over. And I struggled on that too. What am I going to do in those gems? So I guess that's what I call them, gems. But yeah, so I don't know. When you do something like this, almost all of these, you do the I do anyway, the big elements first. Do around the applique, do the lines, do the around the diamonds. And then come back, and that's kind of hard on the long arm, right? Because you're rolling back and forth and stuff. But then you don't get as much puckers. If you try to start in the center and do a bunch of heavy quilting like I do, then the whole thing is going to kind of draw up and be kind of wonky. So you need to kind of get it all stitched, secured into place. So I do a lot of rolling back and forth, and yeah. She had fun with that, didn't she? And this is a monster, isn't it? It's heavy. Most of my quilts have wool. I like wool because it makes the design pop. This one has a layer of Hobbs cotton wool blend. But then I put a little half layer of wool on top, so I split my wool batting just to kind of make those flowers pop up. So I couldn't stop there. I had to add a little more. But the wool batting's light. It wouldn't. Yes, Dot? Okay. So I see this a lot online. I don't know if you see it, but it's got on this side of her vine. I put a swirly. And then on this side of the vine, I put straight lines just to kind of differentiate there. And it's over and yeah, that green border probably shouted for feathers, but I thought, I think I'll do the straight lines. So she liked it anyway. That was good. So the wool batting is one secret. If you use cotton batting or even 80-20, sometimes your feathers and your designs fall flat. So the wool, and the wool is warm in the winter and cool in the summer and repels water. And I am kind of allergic, like to wearing wool sweaters and coats, but this has got a layer of cotton. I haven't had any problem with it. So now wool's more expensive too, but now I have used Hobbs wool, but I'm using Quilter's Dream. Quilter's Dream, is that what it's called? Yeah, and it's washable too, so you can wash the. Yeah, no, that'll go next. That's good. This one was in Houston during the Sapphire thing, and I'm collaborating with Vicki Owen, and we decided she's a fantastic paper piecer, and I said, Vicki, you paper piece a quilt, I'll quilt it, and it'll be yours, and then I will design the next quilt, get all the fabric, you paper piece it, I'll quilt it, and it'll be mine. So I have the other one at home ready. Yeah, I haven't started it yet, but so this is her quilt. Yeah, she's fabulous at the paper piecing. I cut out that, she had that big white border there, so I cut out that was a paper snowflake. I looked online how to cut a paper snowflake, and I made a great big paper snowflake and traced it onto there to get that snowflake up there. And then I put big swirls, and on either side of the swirls I put a different fill. I don't know if you can see the snowflakes. There's like little snowflakes in here, and then I gave it a little border, I think it's a half border of that snowflake design. All that, you see the wool popping that forward. It's almost like trapunto, but it's not. But this is a double layer. I think I put a layer of thin cotton. I'm not sure which kind, and then I'll put the wool on top to pop it out. Because we made that for show. That's our goal. We wanted to put it in the show. So we didn't make it in time for the Sapphire. I think you had to apply by February. So we just put it in the regular show. I don't know, yeah. And we had fun though. We got together and did that together and put the crystals on. The crystals are expensive, and they told us, because they have the generic crystals you can get on Amazon, and they told us, no, if you're going to put it in Houston, you need the good, expensive crystals. Of course, she paid for everything for this one, and I'm paying for mine, so if I crystal mine, it'll be. So, it is dark blue with bright Fiesta kind of pieces, lime green and oranges and stuff. So, okay, so let's do this one first here, Andrew. This is the ruler quilt. This is all ruler work here. And I've been teaching this in San Antonio a couple of years. I've had quite a few classes and quite a few students come in. At the end of the class, they have a finished quilt. Lots of times you take a class and you've got a quilt top, but in this one, so we did it as Quilt As You Go. It's a book by Janet Atkinson, and it uses those 6 westerly rulers, the starter kit. It uses that starter kit, and what's really cool is that she didn't just do, what do you call those things, clamshells. She put them in interesting places and did interesting designs with those rulers to show you, kind of get your brain going, and maybe what else can I do with these rulers? Like we were talking about this one, the pink one. This is one of those Spinifex. Thank you, Spinifex rulers. But she turned it the other way, so the center is out, and it was really fun. And this was did I say it was a Quilt As You Go? So we did one block, and then we did the center. Which the next time I taught the class, I didn't start with the center. I started with the green ones, the easier ones, because their centers weren't that great because they started out, and then you have a 2-sided quilt. I had one lady put Christmas on one and Easter on the other, because you can it's a totally 2-sided quilt. So that's really fun. I don't know if they think it is that fun. I think it was fun until we got to that last border. That one just took a long time. But So then, since I do free motion quilting, I always brought to the class this one to show them what they could do if they added to the same design but put a little free motion fills in there. And yeah, it's a two-sided. I did stop. I've got the four corners to make it bigger, and I just couldn't get myself to do those last borders. So I said, I'm done with this one. But yes. No, it was a kind of a rainbow fabric already. And it was just something I had in my stash because I thought, well, I'm going to do one. You know, I would do it ahead of time for the class. I'll do one the regular way, you know, just the plain way, and then I do one that was all fancied up and see. And some of the students took me up on it, and some of them didn't. So, and you know, I have very, very beginners. They don't free motion quilt or anything coming into the ruler classes. And if you think that you're going to come in and those rulers are going to help you learn how to free motion quilt, you're right. I saw it many, many times. They come in, they don't know how to do it. They use the rulers, and they now it is a little bit of you know, because you got to hold the ruler here, you know, get it going and stuff. But once it took me maybe an hour to get the hang of it, and most of my students about an hour. You know, so tomorrow about 10 o'clock, you're going to be flying. But, it takes a little, but towards the end, like a couple of months in, they were free motioning. Because all the things that you worry about in free motion, like your stitch length and your starts and stops and everything comes with it. You know, you learn that as you go. But the ruler helps you with your design. You don't have to worry about that one added dimension. So hopefully you'll find that. Let's see, what else? Oh, okay, this is just my ruler sample that you guys saw. And that was almost all done with ruler work. I think I did a little bit of fill work on there. And I did bring that feather. Does anybody have the feather rulers? I brought that feather ruler so we can try that out and I can show you. You see the border? That's a ruler. The Westerly has a feather ruler, and it comes in 3 sizes, and they even have some different shapes. They have a flame ruler and stuff, but I just have that one. I wanted to tell you about this quilt before I go. And oh, by the way, I had this quilt that I made last summer, and I don't know where it is. It's not here. It was on your Facebook page this morning, so I'm really sorry. I forgot it was a. Yeah, Dot's mad at me because she wanted to see that one, and she was going to challenge you guys to do it. But it was a French tablecloth that I quilted on top of. So maybe if I come back, I'll bring it again. But this one was what do you call it? It got juried into Paducah last year. My husband and I were planning to go. It was going to be so much fun. That was my first quilt in Paducah, and then they canceled it because of COVID. So I don't know what's going to happen if they ever do it again. But this is the Sue Garman designed this quilt for the quilt show, and it was a free block of the month with the quilt show. In my fashion, I don't know, you may have seen them. It's a halo medallion. I've seen them like in Houston, and a lot of people, because Sue Garman was from Houston, she worked at NASA and died recently, which great loss. Anyway. So I took it, but then I was thinking ahead. I'm like, okay, she put this busy fabric here, you know, pretty floral. I'm going to put white, you know, so I was thinking ahead. I'm going to leave some space for me. So I used some of the design elements that I use a lot. Let's see, let's name it repeat, reuse, resize. Those are some of the design elements that I go by. So I started out, you know, I had this kind of triangle. So I thought, well, I'll put like, you know, kind of take this design. It's not exactly, but take this design here. But if I do that, I didn't want it just hanging out there by itself. So I brought it up here, you know, so that it kind of goes through the quilt. that's one of my things. I put in, this was not in Sue Garman's pattern, the applique, and I've got that little Dresden plate. Well, I didn't want him just hanging there all alone, so I put some kind of semi-Dresden flowers out here in the border, in the lattice. There's Dresdens stitched right here on inside each one of these little arcs. So and they're resized. They're not the same size, so I changed them. So and what was the other one? Reuse, resize, repeat. Okay, yeah, so I have it several times in different sizes. That's just some of my design, trying to maybe make it a little more cohesive, like they say on Project Runway. And then, you want to see the back? And I think I told you this took 80 hours. So this was, I don't always check. I do like to use, I told you I use the 40 weight thread. I use pink. Cotton candy is what it's called. If I had used white, it wouldn't show up quite so much. So when I have a really light fabric, I go just a tad darker. Not too much, because it doesn't look good if you have, and every little thing falls, but just a tad darker. So even if I had white, I could use a cream or a light gold. If I have a really dark fabric and I want it to show, I'll go a tad lighter. And I'll tell you what, don't ever use black. That's not, okay, don't hold me to that, but I don't like to use black. First of all, it kind of, something about the dye makes the black thread not work as well, and it doesn't show up. I've quilted black on black. You can't even tell that I quilted it, it's just totally disappears. And so I'm like, well, why do I even have black thread then? Because it looks terrible, like if you do black on white, right? It's just too stark and too severe. So I will use light gray or on Denise's, I think I used some, anyway, not light gray, but a lighter gray than the black. Don't go too wild either. Or then you see all those things. So my daughter came up to me a few years ago and she said, "Mom, I think you're getting a big head from all this quilting." And I'm like, "Who, me? I'm super humble. I'm not getting a big head." And she was looking at my thread box. It's like the one that you put the Matchbox cars in. That little thread box that you. And on the thread box, it had on one section it had "So Fine," and on the other section it said "Magnifico," and then and then on the other section it said "Fantastico." And bigger than Dallas on the front, it said "Superior." So if you don't use superior threads, you won't know what I'm talking about. But yeah, that was my big head, Mom. But that's I guess. Except I left my two quilts at home. I'm sorry, but questions? Thank you. Do I mark my quilts before I start or mark as I go? Yes. I some things require pre-marking. Sometimes, like I can do the major designs, sometimes I have to do that. But if I'm working on just a block, I can draw right on there. I do use a lot of chalk, and I like those blue pens. I like the blue pen. Most of the time, I'm quilting on my own stuff. If you're long arming for other people, you got to be real careful what you put on there, because when you spritz that blue pen, you might bleed or something. So you would have to be careful. But you know what? And I'll tell you guys this tomorrow ad nauseum. But test it. Test whatever you're using. Somebody tells you, and I'll tell you my favorite tools tomorrow. But even then, test it yourself before you go, because it just makes you cry when you can't get the marks out. It's just it's panic. Even that powder stuff, that pounce, they show a video of them pouncing, and then it just irons off. But they haven't stitched it. They don't show it stitched. When it gets in those little stitched grooves, it doesn't come out as easy as when, on a flat piece of fabric. So I called them. I was like, oh, it's not coming out. And I think it's still in there, that quilt. I don't think it, yes. I do. I wash every quilt after I finish. First of all, it helps me block it. And if anything's going to happen, I want it to happen in my house before I give it away or before something else happens. So I do. I didn't even tell you that story. I started this on a whim, this Sue Garman thing. I grabbed all the reds out of my thing. I didn't wash a single thing. I didn't pre-wash the whites. And towards the end, it started to look kind of nice, I was thinking, dang, I probably should have washed that fabric. So I was starting to panic, and I got all the websites. They tell you what to happen if it bleeds. So I put it in the wash. I have a front loader. I put it in there on cool with about 50 of those color catchers. I threw them in there. It came out like a dream. It didn't bleed at all. So I was so happy because I tell you, I was really, really nervous. And that was before I was taking the pictures to enter it in Paducah, I was like, oh, please. But yes. Sometimes your thread bleeds, huh? It would depend, too. And if you can, get the best quality thread that you can find, especially when you're free motion quilting, because you're asking your machine to do some things that it doesn't really want to do. When you're free motion quilting, is going backwards and pulling around, and some threads will break, and you'll pull your hair out, and you don't ever want to do this again. When, maybe if you just had a good quality thread, you might be thinking, hey, this is kind of fun. Look at that design. So hopefully I can inspire you to free motion your own quilts. Any more? This one? Okay, and it is a Sue Garman pattern. And this is not from the Halo Medallion, but you can look it up under Sue Garman's. And it was a block on one of her quilts, and it's paper pieced. It's all paper pieced. And Afternoon Delight was the name of the quilt. And you can go and you can purchase month 3 or whatever. It was like $8. So you can. Isn't that a nice one? This was a block. This was a block. This was a block. By paper piecing, they matched. If I would try, because it's not a very hard block, right? You just put a piece of red in between, but when you paper piece it, they come out exact so that you don't have your seams come out nice. So that was one thing, and that arc thing was all paper. Oh my gosh, that took forever. So it was a block of the month, and that one took like 4 or 5 months to do those little. But that was what I liked, those flying geese that arch over that, and it's all paper piece. And so this is the block. No, well, I think I did that right, and then I put the round. Yeah. It was, and when you take it in bites, block of the month, it's not quite so bad. But. Thank you. If you're coming tomorrow, I've got a couple of things I wanted to add. We're going to make like squares and a border thing. If you have a little, just a ruler, let's see, I've got it over here. Maybe you could bring a ruler or something just to help you mark some guidelines. And let's see. Does anybody, or did anybody purchase this thing? If you have it, bring it. If not, we'll borrow. I borrowed a few, or one of these Cindy Needham Ultimate. Bring it if you've got it. Put your name on everything, too. Put your name on all your rulers, because they kind of have a tendency to float in the classroom. So if you have your name on it, at least your friends can give it back to you next month. I've had that happen. If you have this, it'll help with those spin effects. So I have a few. Dot gave me a couple, and I think I've got 6. But there's 20 people, almost 20 people. So we'll have to share to get that, okay? So if you have one. And let's see, what else? Put your name on them, okay? Okay, and we'll have fun. It'll be fun tomorrow.
Okay, and I just had a phone call. I have a text message from somebody. I don't know who, because I have no idea what that number is, like who belongs to that phone number when it comes across as a text message. So, but anyway, that somebody else just canceled. So if you're interested, let me know. Thank you, Karen.